Hello everyone, and welcome back to the second part of this series where we go and explore the filming locations for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. We'll be going season by season, episode by episode. As I have mentioned before, if I've covered the area before, I'm not going to repeatedly do it for every single episode that it shows up. I'm just going to try and cover them for the first time that they've shown up in the series, unless there's something relevant to add to it. So without further ado, let's get into episode 1. Charlie Gets Crippled. The first episode of season 2 starts out with Dennis, Mac, and Charlie pre-gaming at the bar before heading to the strip club. Dee walks in and says that she just got off the phone with her and Dennis's dad and that he's on his way, so they gotta rush out before he arrives. As they approach the car, Charlie tries to borrow $20 for the strip club, but no one else loans it to him, which causes him to storm off in a fit of rage, saying that he's going home. Just then, Frank, Dee and Dennis's dad, is in front of the car. This marks the first time that we see Danny DeVito appear in the show. After this jump scare, Dennis puts the car into reverse and he runs over Charlie, which brings us to our first clip here of Penn Medicine Rittenhouse, located at 1800 Lombard Street, which is situated between 18th and 19th Street, with this view being taken from 18th. Season 2, Episode 2, The Gang Goes Jihad, opens up with the gang at the bar trying to remove Charlie's cast and arguing with Frank about why he can't be a member of the gang. At this point, Ari Frankel, an Israeli expat, comes in and gives them a notice to vacate, saying that he's just purchased the property that Patty's Pub is on. Flash forward to the 6-minute mark and we get this scene. This is used to represent the lawyer's office that Mac, Charlie, and Dennis go to try and stop the sale of the bar. The lawyer informs them that they had plenty of opportunity to stop the sale, and at this point it's going to go through, so there's no legal recourse. Mac interprets this as a wink-wink, nudge-nudge type situation, thinking that there's a non-legal way to take care of it. The lawyer says that's not what he's suggesting at all, and then eventually gets upset and kicks them out of the office.
Get out.
This shot was taken from Love Park, just across City Hall, and as you can see, not a whole lot has changed, but this is what it looks like today. After they get kicked out of the lawyer's office, we find them here in Rittenhouse Square walking towards the corner of 18th and Walnut. Mac says, I agree with the lawyer, we need to find a way to get back at this guy. Dennis chimes in that they need to do it in a way that doesn't make them seem anti-Semitic. Mac says, yeah, I agree, we don't have a problem with the Jews. This ends up sparking a debate amongst the guys about whether or not they can actually use that terminology. Charlie mentions that it's all about the context. Mac and Dennis end up shooting Charlie down, saying that his opinion doesn't matter because he doesn't even know what's going on in Israel. Charlie asks them to explain what's going on in Israel, and it's very evident that they have no idea themselves. Anyway, this is Rittenhouse Square, very lovely part of the city. There's always lots of events going on here throughout the year. Especially in the summer, they end up closing down a lot of the streets. You find Saturday morning farmers markets. Overall, really, really cool place. After successfully getting on unemployment, we find Dee and Dennis sitting here on this stoop on the 700 block of 10th Street. They're singing along with Biz Marquis's Just Friends. You know that one that goes, girl, you got what I need. And you say he's just a friend. At this point, Mac shows up and tells them that they need to get back to the bar because he's getting swamped with work. Dee and Dennis eventually make fun of him for not knowing how to take advantage of government programs. Then they just turn the music up and continue blasting and ignoring him. Next we get this B-roll footage, but I'm gonna actually wait until we get to episode 7 before I go into a little bit more detail. Now that Dee and Dennis are no longer working at the bar, they need some new employees to come help out. So Matt comes down here to the welfare office to enroll in a program where they take people who are about to go on welfare and the government subsidizes their income to get them back to work. While they're there, they find out there's a whole bunch of stipulations to the program and Mac and Charlie have no desire to read the books. On their way out, Dee and Dennis walk in. They explain to Mac and Charlie that they plan on applying for welfare on the basis that Dee, well, she's got a helmet, so I'll let you put 2 and 2 together, and Dennis is a crackhead. I did cover this in season 1, episode 2, Charlie Wants an Abortion, but I just felt like coming back here. After Dee and Dennis are told by the welfare office that they need to bring proof from a doctor, that they're actually, so they can qualify for welfare, we see them walking here at 9th and Christian. Dee says if they want to play rough, we can play rough. Let's go buy some crack. Which is kind of a strange concept to me because I didn't know you could even buy crack. I thought you always had to go behind Wendy's sometime between 6 p.m. and 3 a.m. I think I've been lied to. Right behind me we have the waitress and Carmen's houses, and right down the street is where Dee and Dennis are strung out on crack. After scoring more crack rock, Dennis and Dee are seen here at 735 Manton Street. Dee is asking Dennis if he can buy her more headshots when he becomes a veterinarian. He says that he'll buy her lots of things.
I'm definitely gonna buy a bunch of crack.
A few moments later, Charlie and Mac are seen in the limo driving down the street. Dennis and Dee get up and they start talking to them, asking if they're holding. Mac says, holding what? And then he tells the driver to keep going and they drive off laughing. They're actually going the wrong way on the road in the show. Frank goes back into the bar with the welfare employees and he ends up getting a phone call from the bank. The bank says that they need to speak to Charlie. Frank says that he's Charlie. They say they need to talk to him about some fraudulent charges on the card. So we find ourselves here at the ATM right across the street from Gino's Steaks. After Mac and Charlie are unable to get money out of the ATM, the women threaten to get their pimps to take care of it. So what do Mac and Charlie do? Well, they run off in the same direction that Mac went when he was getting chased in season 1, episode 4, where he hit Carmen. Dennis gets off the phone with Charlie and he goes back to the bar. Charlie's sitting there at the bar and he says that he's no longer going to be doing Charlie work. He also says in a menacing voice,
I know something you don't know.
So what does he do? He brings Dennis over to his mom's house so that he can see Mac leaving. She gives him a kiss on the lips. Charlie says to Dennis, you know what you got to do? You got to bang Mac's mom. That brings us here to 1406 Moyamensing. Obviously, this place is under construction. Mac's mom obviously does not live here. Mac's mom rejects Dennis's advances and she says that he is ugly. Meanwhile, the waitress and Dee are sitting across the street and the waitress is absolutely disgusted by what she just saw. Dee kicks the waitress out of the car and takes a phone call from Charlie. At this point, Charlie says it's on to phase 2. Season 2, episode 5, it opens up at 11:30 on a Tuesday with the gang walking from the corner of 16th and Sampson towards Moravian Street, which is basically just a small alley. They're debating whether or not Rocky IV is the best movie ever. Dee seems to think that it's $1 Million Baby. Obviously, she's wrong. As they turn around the corner, they find themselves face to face with the robber who pulls out a knife and demands that they give them all their money. This causes the guys to run off, and in the process, they knock over Dee, leaving her behind. The robber says to Dee, nice friends you got there. Charlie ends up in jail and Mac ends up standing in for the fight. After the fight, Mac and Dennis are walking down the same alley where Dee got robbed in the beginning. They come face to face with the meth head robber again and he tells them to empty their pockets. Mac doesn't have any money on him and empties his pocket. Dennis is reluctant to empty his pockets. Finally, he does and reveals that he has a whole bunch of cash on him. Mac is wondering where he got the cash from. Dennis essentially reveals that he bet against Mac because he knew that he would lose. Mac is upset because he told Dennis that he could have at least taken a dive, but Dennis says that it needed to look real. Mac asks Dennis if he was eventually going to tell him about it, and Dennis lies, of course, and says, yeah, he would have eventually. Mac doesn't believe him, so he says, you know what?
Stab this son of a bitch.
Dennis pleads with the meth head, please don't stab me. Season 6 opens up with the gang eating breakfast right here, right across the street from Anthony's in the Italian market. They're discussing their community service following the incident in the second episode where they burnt down Ari Frankel's building. When the bill shows up, They see that Charlie had like 7 mimosas and they're like $8 a pop. So the gang gets up and runs away, not paying their bill. Now we're on Broad Street between Rodman Street and Lombard, facing down towards City Hall. This is a pretty common B-roll footage that they use throughout the series. It's also a pretty common place for people to come and take pictures right here on these medians that run in between north and southbound of Broad Street. Then we get this B-roll footage with the Philadelphia Department of Health. This is where Charlie's supposed to go for his AA meetings. While they were sitting and having breakfast at De Bruno's, Charlie mentioned the fact that he was drunk when he had burned down R.A. Frankel's house. He shows up late to the AA meeting drinking beer. A little bit later, the waitress comes up to him and tells him that she's willing to be his sponsor because she didn't realize that he was an alcoholic, and she herself is a recovering alcoholic. This location is at the corner of Broad Street and Lombard. So the gang is unable to get Matthew to bless the stain. At this point, Frank mentions that he knows somebody else who can do it. That's when we find ourselves here at 2430 Kensington Avenue. This is the home of Father O'Grady. Frank and Dennis knock on his door and they start talking to him, and they see that he's clearly not in the right headspace. He's talking about brown cats and some other nonsense. But nevertheless, they end up bringing him back to the bar to check out the stain. When they leave him unattended, Father O'Grady ends up in the office urinating on the stain and just completely ruins any chance they could have of it being a miraculous stain. Matthew shows back up at the bar and he tells Dee that he has left the priesthood and that him and Dee can now be together. Dee retracts and she says, "Ooh, you probably shouldn't have done that and you should probably go back to being a priest." Matthew explains that that's simply not how it works and he can't go back to the cloth. So this inevitably leads to his downfall, turning him to the character we all know and love, Rickety Cricket. Season 2, Episode 9, Charlie Goes America All Over Everybody. We end up getting this B-roll footage. Now, this B-roll footage was taken right in front of Franklin Institute. If you look at it in the show, it looks very, very different, and I really find this interesting because it kind of outlines how much the city skyline has changed in the 20 years since the show has originally aired. Right after we get this B-roll footage, we find Charlie and Dee at Love Park. Season 2, Episode 9, Charlie Goes America All Over Everybody. We find ourselves back at JFK Plaza, aka Love Park, which is right across the street from City Hall. Dee and Dennis are watching a anti-smoking campaign protest type situation, and Charlie's really, really inspired by it. He ends up wanting to join the cause. Finds out later that the members of the organization are actually all just actors. Dee belittles him and says that he's not a real actor. I've already covered this area a little bit, so I'm not going to go into too much more detail. The first location that we get in Season 2, Episode 10 is the Blue Martini. This is located at 22 South 2nd Street, just by the corner of Market Street. This location is used quite frequently in the show to represent kind of a higher-end restaurant. It's actually kind of a bar and nightclub, and they do eventually show that, but not in most episodes. Most of the time it is used as a restaurant. But the first time we see it, we have Dee and Dennis, who brought Frank here because they think being in a fancier restaurant will lead him to not cause a scene. Shortly after, their mom Barbara shows up, and it goes as you would expect right away. Dee and Dennis start talking to Frank and Barbara and say that a man named Bruce Mathis reached out to Dee saying that he is the father. Frank says no way. Barbara says that no, it is absolutely possible. They did have an affair, but at the time, Bruce Mathis didn't have money and Frank would have wanted them aborted. Upon finding out this information, Frank starts causing a scene and calls her a whore, asking random people, "Did you bang my wife? Did you bang my wife? Did you bang my wife?" After Dee and Dennis find out that Frank isn't their actual father and that it's actually Bruce Mathis, they decide that they want to go and meet the man himself. So they come over here to the 300 block of South 21st Street where his office is. Now, in the show, Bruce Mathis is actually a really great character. He goes off to Alaska to do environmental work, he does volunteer work in Darfur, and even adopts a whole family there, which turns out to be Dee and Dennis's siblings. After Mac and Charlie fail to take out Bruce, we find ourselves back at the same hospital that we saw in episode 1, Charlie Gets Crippled. However, this time, Dee and Dennis are here to meet with Bruce. Their mom is also there. And before they go and reconnect and do the whole family thing, Bruce gives them all red noses so that they can volunteer and cheer up the children. However, obviously these aren't volunteering type of people. They complain about the hospital being cold and there's so many sick people, they don't want to go out and get sick. The mom even goes as far as to steal medicine from children. Well, that is a wrap for season 2. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to stick around for season 3. That should be coming out here in a couple weeks. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave them below. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. I always appreciate it. But until next time, goodbye.